everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, there's Kevin Wilds, there's Chris Broussard. Got a lot going on for a Wednesday morning. Steelers Pro Bowler James Conner's going to stop by. He's going to get us excited for his Steelers and for the start of the NFL. Hey, can Lamar versus Mahomes be the next Brady versus Manning? We'll toss that around a little bit. And how much are the Patriots motivated by the exit of one Tom Brady? All to be discussed, but this morning we're going to start in the NBA with the latest news surrounding the restart. There are some players right now in the league contemplating sitting out over social justice issues. One of those players plays for the Lakers. It's guard and co-leader of a players' coalition, Avery Bradley. He had this to say: regardless of how much media coverage will be received, talking and raising awareness about social injustice isn't enough. Are we that self-centered to believe no one in the world is aware of racism right now, that as athletes we solve the real issues by using our platforms to speak? We don't need to say more. We need to find a way to achieve more. Protesting during an anthem, wearing T-shirts, it's great, but we need to see real actions being put into the works. And in a memo to teams, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver released this statement: a central goal of our season restart will be to utilize the NBA's platform to bring attention and sustained action to issues of social injustice, including combating systemic racism, expanding educational and economic opportunities across the Black community, enacting meaningful police and criminal justice reform, and promoting greater civic engagement. We are in discussions with the Players Association to develop a comprehensive strategy on how the NBA, its teams, and players can best address these important social issues and uniquely position our league to drive action and create meaningful and generational change. So, Broussard, as Avery Bradley said, we don't need to see more. We need to find a way to achieve more. And it appears as if the league is listening. What do you make of what Avery Bradley and the commissioner had to say?
Well, I think everyone that criticized Kyrie Irving, Avery Bradley, Dwight Howard, and other players that brought up the notion of sitting out and forcing, the Black Lives Matter movement to the forefront of the league, I think they owe them an apology. Guys called it stupid and other things. They owe these guys an apology, because before they even brought up that notion, Avery and Kyrie, I had not heard the NBA say anything about addressing systemic racism. All I heard was coming back to play, COVID-19, the bubble, and that they would let players protest. And I don't like that term when it comes to a protest anyway, because a protest isn't about anyone letting you do something. It's about you making people uncomfortable. And so I think that Kyrie and Avery Bradley have forced the league to address these things. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe behind the scenes, they were already talking with the Players Association about stuff like this, but I didn't see it publicly. And the fact of the matter is this: whatever the players were going to do or could do or will do in Orlando, as far as wearing T-shirts, kneeling down, locking arms during the anthem, whatever it was, the whole purpose of that is to get the powers that be in the system to address the system and address changes that need to be made. There's two ways to change a system: either tear it down completely or get the powers that be, the power brokers in the system, to start making changes. And now it appears that Avery and Kyrie have pushed the league to at least start looking at that. I love these phrases: combating systemic racism, that I heard from Adam Silver, expanding educational and economic opportunities across the Black community, create meaningful and generational change. That is what needs to be done. Now, this is only a first step. This is only a statement. It remains to be seen what exactly the league could do. But with Adam Silver and the owners, they can get a lot done that the players can't. So props to Avery and Kyrie for pushing this forward, Wilds.
Broussard, I totally agree. I think those were perfect points, that when they first came out, it was a little bit of like, what's going on here? And now you're looking at, they've already moved the conversation pretty far. So I think you're spot on. I also want to talk about Avery Bradley, and he was saying it's not enough for awareness. There's also a tremendous fundraising opportunity Avery Bradley has here, and I think that should also be part of the plan. And the reason why I say there's a tremendous fundraising opportunity for maybe hundreds of millions of dollars is that we just saw the NFL do it during the NFL draft. If we could put up the tweet, Roger Goodell, this was all in 3 days. Thank you for participating in Draftathon. With the addition of your donations, the NFL family has now collectively raised more than $100 million for COVID-19 relief. And they distributed that money to groups like the Salvation Army, American Red Cross, and the United Way. So if Avery Bradley was to identify some civil groups that shared a like-minded goals of combating systemic racism, in addition to some of the NBA-centric goals that they've outlined, I think they could raise hundreds of millions of dollars. And here's the strategy that I would employ, Nick. It would be an inside, outside of the game strategy. So we'll start with or inside and around. Around the game strategy is largely commercials, right? There's 4 pots of commercials during the playoffs and NBA finals. There's your national commercials that big sponsors like Nike gets. There's your local commercial that is given to NBA affiliates. There's promotional time, and there's institutional time, which the NBA controls that commercial inventory. That's where you see a lot of NBA cares. If I was Avery Bradley, I would say, hey, all that institutional time that NBA and the promos, I say let's turn that into a call to action, a fundraising call to action to try to raise money, maybe for a central pot that would then be distributed. Maybe it flows through NBA Cares since that's already been logistically set up. The other thing is actual in-game call to action. These could be LEDs, on-court, broadcast calls to actions that when graphics pop up, jersey patches we know cost at least $20 million. The Warriors, Rakuten paid the Warriors $60 million over 3 years. If that was a call to action, those are very simple things that are to activate a few graphics, some jersey patches, some signage that could net hundreds of millions of dollars for organizations that Avery Bradley, I think, share the goal of Avery Bradley and Kyrie's group.
So I think that's a wonderful point, Wildes. And if the audience doesn't know, Wildes in his previous life worked hand in glove with the NBA, produced the NBA Finals. And so things like the 4 different pots of commercials, I guess I'd watched them my whole life, but I had never seen them in that regard. And knowing what the NBA allocates, if you kind of took some of the time from NBA Cares and put it to a different cause, I think could be super effective. But here to me is the most important part of this. We always hear about raising awareness. Raising awareness is useful, but it is only as useful as if that awareness then leads to action. And I think Avery nailed it when he said, at this point, folks are aware of the issue. Unlike 4 years ago when Cap was kneeling and folks wanted to deny the issue, we now have a majority of Americans that recognize not only systemic racism, but the specific issue of the moment, police brutality and the policing of minority communities is a major issue. So what can we do with that? So I have some very specific suggestions that I think the NBA could implement, some instantly and some moving forward. One would be this. Since this movement is about policing and police reform, I think you could have all 30 NBA teams say, listen, we have cops at our games. It is, when I've spoken to local police, it is a great gig. You get to go to the games. Very often you get extra overtime money. If your local police force does not implement these specific reforms, we're going to bring in our own private security. That extra time, those gigs are going to go away unless we see some changes within your local police force. Now, that might be more symbolic than anything, but I think it would be important. And then there could be real community investment. And Broussard, I know you remember Wildes, Jenna, everyone remembers in the 90s, there was at one point in time a bipartisan support of night hoops, a successful inner city night, not only basketball, it's called night hoops, but program for young people who didn't have anywhere to go, that somehow, even though George H.W. Bush was one of the big supporters of it, and then Clinton was one of the big supporters of it, by the year 2000, it had become totally polarized and it went away. The NBA could fund that and help bring that back. There are other things as far as in the inner city communities that I think a lot of folks just don't even recognize, which is there are these food deserts where there just isn't a grocery store within walking or bus distance for people that live in this community. NBA owners have money to affect that type of change. If we want to stay on the criminal justice things, more direct help for folks who got caught up in the criminal justice system in job training or rehabilitation to get them back into the workforce. And we know, Broussard, that it can work, and we know they have the money. All you have to do is think about what LeBron James has done for the young people of Akron. Every single NBA owner has more money than LeBron. And if you got 5, 10, 15 of the owners to make the type of investment in their local community that LeBron has made in Akron, then you would have real possibility for change, not to end systemic racism. I think that is going to be a multi-decade, maybe multi-century goal for this country that has a tortured history in that. But in making people's lives on a day-to-day basis better, lives that are brothers, sisters, aunts, cousins, mothers, fathers of our NBA superstars, that's what I think can be the ball can roll towards here, Broussard. And I think that is where the NBA's got to take a leadership role.
No, those are all good ideas, Nick. I remember midnight basketball. I used to participate. I spoke at some of those events, which you were talking about, night hoops. And it was very good, and it did just kind of fade away. So it'd be nice to bring that back. But you're absolutely right. I've always been a proponent of African-American athletes using their wealth, their connections, their influence to help the African-American community. And I've pushed the athletes to really do it. But because I didn't feel like the system was going to really do it. Now we're at a place, though, with the protests and things where people are really calling on the system to do some things for African Americans. And that's where the owners have to get involved. And that's what I like seeing so far with the NBA. Again, it's just a statement. Let's see what type of actions they come up with. But this is certainly a positive step in the next direction.
Couldn't agree more, Broussard. And I want to cap the conversation with another interesting point that Avery Bradley made, who said sitting out itself isn't going to make much systemic change, but it does highlight the reality that without black athletes, the NBA certainly wouldn't be what it is today and the way we watch it today.
A healthy lifestyle should be easy, right? Eat veggies, drink green smoothies, exercise, get your heart rate up, and do yoga to bring your heart rate back down. Well, maybe not so easy, but there is something that helps improve everything, and you can literally do it with your eyes closed. It's sleep. Sleep Number knows what it takes to sleep your best. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed lets you choose your ideal firmness, comfort, and support on each side, your Sleep Number setting. It's the perfect solution for couples. These beds are so smart, they respond to your every move and automatically adjust to keep you sleeping comfortably all night. Proven quality sleep is life-changing sleep. And now, during the lowest prices of the season sale, save $400 on Queen Sleep Number 360 C4 smart bed. Now only $12.99. You'll only find Sleep Number at Sleep Number stores or by visiting www.sleepnumber.com.
Welcome back with Super Bowl champ Greg Jennings. Here we go, Greg. The Madden NFL 21 cover was released yesterday, and to nobody's surprise, reigning MVP Lamar Jackson was revealed as the cover athlete. When Lamar was asked about his rivalry with the last Madden cover athlete, Patrick Mahomes, the Ravens quarterback said, there, quote, ain't no rivalry. Greg, Lamar saying there isn't a rivalry between him and Mahomes is blank.
This is true to Lamar Jackson. However, to us as fans, as the media, this is not true. This is not our reality. The reality of it is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens are two of the best teams in the American Conference. These are two of the most electrifying, best quarterbacks in that conference. And they've played the last couple of years. And to Lamar Jackson's point, he's lost both of those head-to-heads. Now, with them being the best teams in the American Conference, we automatically put them into a rivalry category because of the Peyton Mannings, because of those type of games that we were able to see happen in those duels take place within the playoffs. That has to happen. I think he wants to win. His team needs to win for it to be a true rivalry in his eyes. But it is definitely a rivalry when you have two of the best colliding.
I agree, Greg. I went Brady Manning here, Nick. Look, Brady started out 6-0, and then it ended up 11-6. We went 5-6 for the back half. I think this is a good rivalry, Nick.
Yeah, I think it could be, but to me, my answer is this is list-worthy. Our great statistician, Dustin Waite, came up with an idea. I'm taking it as my own. Look into the crystal ball. What are going to be the best quarterback rivalries of the next decade? We know what they have been. What about the ones coming up? So top fives are whack. Let's do a top six. Number 6, two guys that have actually played in the playoffs. How about Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson? I think those are two of the 6 best quarterbacks in football right now. They're both obviously young, same draft class. Over the next decade, I think that's your 6th best quarterback rivalry. Number 5, we now go interdivision. How about Baker Burrow? A little, 2 woebegone franchises, number 1 overall picks. I'm still buying Baker Mayfield stock, even though I wouldn't have taken Burrow number 1. I like him a ton as a player. So Baker Burrow, AFC North supremacy, or at least trying to catch up with Lamar. Listen, Jenna, you wait for the next reveal and you'll see why he doesn't have legs. Number 4, Jenna out here critiquing Photoshop. She don't even know how Photoshops work. You'll figure it out in a moment. Jenna, number 4. Tua versus Darnold. Now, this is maybe a little more credit than Sam Darnold deserves, but speaking of other great producers, we have Sam Pepper. He threatened to quit the show if I didn't include Darnold on this. AFC East up for grabs. Josh Allen, Tua versus Darnold. It's going to be what determines the AFC East over the next decade. Certainly ain't going to be, if we were doing the bottom quarterback rivalries of the next decade, Stidham versus Josh Allen would come in at 38. All right, number 3. Now we get to some good stuff. The most veteran person on the list. See, that's why he doesn't have legs, Jenna. He didn't need legs. Russell Wilson's in front of him. Kyler against Russ. You might say, Russ is going to play for the next decade. You're damn straight. Russ is going to play for the next decade. Kyler, another number 1 overall pick. That's number 3. Number 2. For Fox purposes, they hope this would be number 1. NFC East, Dak Wentz. Let's assume Dak gets signed. We know Dak, even legless, is bothering Jenna, that Dak has actually won a playoff game. Carson's team has won a Super Bowl, but he didn't play in it. I think that'll be a great rivalry over the next decade. And Wild's number 1, of course, is Lamar against Patrick. The 2 reigning MVPs, the 2 best teams in football going into this year. Wilds, that's my impromptu top 6. It's amazing, even though I did that off the top of my head, that we had those graphics ready for it. Your take on that top 6, next decade QB rivalry.
Well, I think it's good. I think you missed one, because I also called Dustin in our Photoshop team. Boom! The rivalry of the next decade of the future of the NFL. Stidham versus Mahomes. When do we play, Nick? Not week 3. Is it week 3? Week 3. Watch Jarrett the Javelin Stidham come into Kansas City and knock off the defending Super Bowl champs.
Hey,
Week
Nick,
3
at
is
least both of
Chiefs,
those guys
Ravens,
had
Wilds.
legs.
Check the schedule.
What do I got week 3?
Sorry,
On to the Bucs now. Their offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, was asked about his new quarterback, Tom Brady, who, by the way, is 2 years older than Byron, and said, quote, "I think the greatest challenge is this. Brady's been somewhere for 20 years. Nick, Leftwich's comments on Brady are blank.
Half truth. Part of his biggest challenge is the change of system. The other part of his biggest challenge is Bruce Arians and that the 5 and 7 step drop back offense, deep shot offense that could end up where Brady can lean on Byron Leftwich for a different reason. And that is Greg Jennings. You remember the most famous moment of Byron Leftwich's career? It was actually in college when his Marshall teammates had to carry him up the field on their shoulders because he had gotten blown up Well, listen, Brady might have to lean on Byron. How do I play if I've been blown up like that if Bruce Arians doesn't moderate some of his play calling? So I think it's half true. It's partially about understanding the playbook, partially about dealing with the punishment that's coming Brady's way, unfortunately.
I think Byron Leftwich is spot on here. When you talk about being in one organization for as long as Tom Brady has been with New England Patriots, 20 years, I've experienced, I was in Green Bay for only 7 years, and when I got to Minneapolis and with the Vikings, I looked in the weight room and I saw myself in that purple, and that just was unsettling at times. There's going to be some hurdles mentally that he's going to have to just acclimate himself to, and it's better to have it done in the offseason. Seeing Tom Brady in those Buccaneer uniforms, it's going to be awkward for himself, let alone everyone else. So I think that culture, the mentality, the approach, all of those things, you're going to compare everything as you move forward, and that's going to be something he's going to have to learn to dismiss.
Quick correction for America. It's week 4 the Patriots beat the Chiefs, not week 3. That's the other big game. That's the opening game. That's the little warm-up game against the Ravens. Then it's the big game versus Jarrett the Javelin for the Chiefs. Hey, I think this is apology-worthy because Mr. Nick Wright was saying all sorts of terrible things about Tom Brady when he accidentally went in with a few duffel bags and he went into Byron Leftwich's neighbor's house. Turns out Byron Leftwich says, hey, I like to write things down in front of me. I had a lot of information, especially from the playbook standpoint, wanted to give to him. That's all it was about. Nothing about duffel bags or any of that. So it's apology worthy, Nick. So go ahead, give it to America and Tom Brady. Apology of.
No, I won't be doing that. Jenna, go ahead. There's no apology. No apology.
With Brady
None. Go
out
ahead, Jenna.
in New England, Brady's gone, but that leaves Bill Belichick with something to prove this season. Former Patriot Rodney Harrison said Belichick, quote, knows the team will be motivated to prove they can win without Tom. Nick Belichick couldn't win before he had Tom. Can he win after he has Tom? Bill using Brady's departure as motivation would be blank.
Wow, poor Belichick just gets drive-by based on his tenure with the Browns. Listen, I think Belichick using Tom Brady's departure as motivation would be unnecessary. Every player on that team knows who was there last year, who wasn't there last year. And I not only do I think it'd be unnecessary, I think it could be a little damaging to Wild's BFF, Jarrett the Javelin. I don't think you need Jarrett needs a lot of reminders. Everyone thinks we're going to stink because of you, because that's essentially what he'd be saying. I think Belichick's just going to turn the page. The Patriots can, for the first time in forever, credibly use the nobody believes in us. But I don't know how often Belichick's going to play that card, especially early on, Greg.
Personally, I think it's a no-brainer. You think it's unnecessary? I say it's a no-brainer for the very opposite reason, because Bill Belichick is all about making his players better and doing whatever it takes, and making them uncomfortable is a part of pulling out the best in individual play. So I think him sprinkling in there from time to time, reading an article, as Harrison said, it's going to happen.
Hey, I like this. I like motivation, and we look at it, the defense carried the team last year anyways. If you look at points per game, the offense was 7th, defense was 1st. Yards per game, the offense was 15th, defense was 1st. So I think the defense is going to carry us here.
All right, let's talk about the 49ers. When Jimmy Garoppolo was asked about his team's interest in Tom Brady this offseason, Jimmy G said, quote, it's the NFL. There's competition. Everyone's trying to put their best team together. Nick, Jimmy G being unfazed by the Niners' interest in Tom Brady is blank.
Impossible. It's simply impossible that this did not bother him, that this did not cause him some consternation. Listen, he knows he's nearly 15 years younger than Brady. He also, I would imagine, has had some trouble sleeping all offseason, having the memory of the Super Bowl game-winning touchdown pass being in his hands, and he overthrows Emmanuel Sanders by 6 yards. And so to have his season end the way it did, where they turn a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter into a double-digit loss in the Super Bowl, in large part because some of the mistakes he made, and then the GM and the head coach admit that they were openly considering replacing him with the oldest starting quarterback this side of George Blanda the NFL's ever seen. I think it's absolutely impossible that he's unfazed by it, Greg.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This was all media talk. This is how you communicate to the media. I'm unfazed, I'm unbothered, when in reality that camera turns off and you're at home, you're around your family and friends, and you're looking at them like, what? They're trying to replace me with Tom? Did they not see that Bill Belichick was trying to get rid of Tom for me? So those are the conversations that he's really having. He's just saving face, doing what he's supposed to be doing politically, answering the questions correctly for the media.
I took this at face value, guys. The guy likes honesty. If you look at the later on in the quote, that's their job. Put the best team together possible. You got to respect that. As long as honesty and truthfulness is there, I respect those guys. I love those guys. It's going to be a fun year to year. Nick, I don't think everyone is like you, where if in your top 50 players, if one person has number 47 at 46 and you've got 46 at 49, that you go off the handle at the person. Some people are just like, hey, that's okay. You got a different opinion. You're honest about it.
First of all,
yeah, that's nice.
Nick would never make a list of top 50 players. Wilds would be the top 52 players or the top 57 players.
Confirmed.
Take a turn, talk some
Jenna.
Steelers now.
Confirmed.
Pittsburgh's Pro Bowl running back James Conner joining the show next on First Things First. Of course it was a good take. Back here with Chris Broussard. So, guys, the NBA set to restart July 30th in Orlando. There is plenty of debate these days on whether there will be an asterisk for whoever wins the title. Well, Steve Kerr made his stance quite clear. He said, quote, the one thing I feel really strongly about is a championship under these conditions is going to count. People are going to want to put an asterisk next to it. There's no asterisk in my mind. This is going to be a brutally difficult journey to try and win a title. Nick, do you agree with Steve Kerr?
I almost fully agree with Steve Kerr. The reason I can't wholeheartedly agree with him is I try to be as honest as I can on this show and in life in general, but particularly on the show. Probably more honest on television than I am in real life, actually. That's a different story for a different day. The NBA is very different than any of our other major sports in America, which is underdogs never win the title in the NBA. Never. In fact, if I'm remembering correctly, only twice has a team ever won the title that wasn't one of the top 3 seeds. And both of them were the defending champions who just didn't have a great regular season. A Celtics team in the late 60s did it out of the 4 slot, and the Rockets famously did it out of the 6 slot the second year they won the title with Akeem. The year Jordan came back, remember, but they didn't make the finals because he lost to the Magic, but we pretended it didn't happen. Not the point. So the point I'm making is this. If you have a team like the Grizzlies win the title, then I think people will remember it as the quarantine year, the COVID year, because that never happens in the NBA. But if the Lakers, the Clippers, the Rockets, the Bucks, the Raptors, the Celtics, the Sixers, any of the teams that under normal circumstances we would say are viable options to win the title, then I think adding an asterisk would be ridiculous because those are the teams that would be winning the title anyway. So, Wilds, unless we have something totally unforeseen happen, I don't think a team like Milwaukee, if they win the title, they've been the best team all year, we should be like, well, how much does it really count?
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I'll give you 2 other reasons that I think could happen. The first is, like, if you think about the NBA, you think about NBA champions, just the visual, when you're going through the montage of NBA champions and the confetti is falling down, this championship will look very different. It's going to be an empty arena. It's not going to look like this. So I think, like, the narrative is so formed by some of our great images that I think it's going to be weird looking. The second reason, Broussard, and you tell me what you think about this, is if a significant faction of players decide not to go, especially if a few stars decide not to go, we always talk about, I mean, Nick's going to lose his mind here. We always talk about LeBron won because Draymond missed that one game. But like if a significant amount of stars decide not to go, I think we could look back on and be like, yeah, but remember that was the year that a number of players didn't play for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah, I'm fundamentally against the notion of the asterisk because every championship is different. And in the NBA, injuries have been a huge part of championships. But last year, we don't look at Toronto with an asterisk, even though Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson were hurt. We don't look at Golden State in 2015, even though Kyrie and Kevin Love were hurt, or even 2016 because Draymond was suspended, as you mentioned, Wilds. Heck, what about the 1970s, the early 70s, when Kareem won a title in Milwaukee and the Knicks won 2 rings? Half of the best players in the world were in the ABA, but we don't take away those titles and put an asterisk by them. So I'm against the asterisks. However, Nick, you made an interesting point, and so did you, Wilds, and here's what I'd say. What if LeBron and Giannis, and this won't happen, but if they decided not to play, or they got COVID and couldn't play, and the Clippers won, which would be obviously their first title, it'd be great for the franchise. I think there would be a damper on that title. We wouldn't look at it the same because we're like, the Clippers won their first title, but LeBron wasn't there. Giannis wasn't there. Who'd they beat? So, look, historically, it won't be an asterisk. We give Tim Duncan 5 rings, not 4.5 or 4 because one of them was in a strike-shortened season or lockout season. So no asterisks, but in people's minds, there could be a lot of situations that make them, at least for a few years, look strangely at those titles, and then down the line, people will just count it as a regular championship.
But, Nick, there's got to be a reason why we're even talking about this, why it's being brought up all the time. Will there be an asterisk at the end of this season? Which teams, which players are coming and going? Why do you think there's so much talk about it then?
Well, I think some of it is earnest, and I think some of it is nefarious. I think that it is, I think the point Broussard made is fair. If you have, 3/5 of the All-NBA first team not play or get knocked out of the tournament because of COVID, then we are going to have to say, I understand why folks would say, well, what would have happened in a way different than a guy getting hurt? Because we look at getting hurt as part of sports very different than I can't go to the bubble because my wife is an expecting mother and I don't want to be away from her for 2 months, or because I came down with coronavirus. But I don't think that's the real reason there's this asterisk talk. I've been saying this for 2 months, and I know folks think I evoke LeBron's name too often, so I was very happy when I heard Dan Patrick, the great Dan Patrick, raise this exact same point about a month ago. The asterisk talk is a preemptive shot in case LeBron wins the title. It is a way for folks that don't want there to ever be a discussion about the greatest player ever to continue to try to denigrate the, at the very least, greatest player of his generation. At the very least that. Because by the way, you mentioned, Wilds, that people say, well, without Draymond getting suspended, he wouldn't have the one. And folks say, and if Ray Allen missed the shot, he wouldn't have that one. And if Kyrie misses that shot, in fact, you know what? He's actually 0-9 in the finals when you really think about it. Like, those takes exist. And so the reason that people, I believe, Wilds, have not you don't have many people flatly saying there's an asterisk on this postseason no matter what, is because the folks that want to be able to affix it if LeBron wins sure as hell want to be able to hang this around his neck if they don't. So they want there to be an asterisk if the Lakers win, but if they don't, even better, if they lose in the finals, they sure as hell don't want there to be an asterisk on 3 and 7 in the finals. So they're trying to play it both ways. I think they're trying to reverse engineer a LeBron argument because the Lakers are, at least in my mind, the overwhelming favorite to win this whole thing.
If it was Lakers Bucks and LeBron won, I don't think anyone would attach an asterisk to it. And Broussard, you could tell me your take on that. The other thing I want to bring up is Chris Mannix had a really interesting article in Sports Illustrated that he was expecting, just because of the layoff, that the play will be a little bit sloppy, and he was predicting that 3-point percentage would really drop, which would really change the flow of the game. Broussard, I think if we see a statistical anomaly that's totally different than how teams operated and played during the year, I think that's another way of people will look at the championship a little crooked.
Well, I think as long as everybody's facing the same obstacles and circumstances, it's a legitimate championship, period. So that's how I look at it. They all have to deal with this lockdown and being in the bubble and all that. So whoever comes out on top, more power to him. But I agree completely with Nick. And look, let's face it, for the most part, we're talking about two guys, two of our great colleagues. And I've told the mighty Skip Bayless, I've said this to Skip, and I've said it to my radio partner, Rob Park, on The Odd Couple. You guys want to attach an asterisk to this if LeBron James wins. Now, both of them have told me that is not the case. Skip has said, he said Kawhi Leonard is going to win this championship. It's going to be the asterisk championship. So he's put that on the record. Let's see if he sticks to it. But I do agree with you, Nick. A lot of people just want to discredit LeBron if he wins this title.
And I just think that if the Lakers were this, let's say it was last year's Lakers, LeBron hadn't gotten hurt, or LeBron got hurt and they're the 7 seed, then it's a different story. But as Wild said, if we get Bucks, Lakers, Bucks, Clippers, Bucks, Rockets, or Sixers, Raptors, Celtics, any of those teams against the top 3 teams in the West, then that's what we would have been getting anyway. That's what the NBA is. The NBA doesn't have multiple round upsets. So assuming that's what happens, Jenna, to me, there's no reason to even be having this discussion.
And yet we did, because it was a good one. We got to take a break. On the other side, guys, we're going to discuss Tom Brady. Ooh, Tom Brady looks good in his new digs. Next on First Things First. Time now for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Midas. Trust the Midas touch. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers released the first photos of Tom Brady in his new uni. Wilds used it as his Zoom background screen this morning's meeting. Nick did not. Nick, why? What do you think?
Listen, I actually think the white uniforms look great. I think the red, or whatever they call that color red, looks very good. I think the silver looks awful. It looks like a cartoonish. So Tampa Bay, I'm obviously the fashion expert on the show. Is stay away from the gray on gray. The red with the gray pants is fine, but the gray on gray doesn't look good. The rest of it, Wild, your guy Brady looks quite good. Now, his uniform's never going to be that clean because he's going to be getting hit a lot. True. But at the beginning of games, Wilds, he should look good.
Yeah, it's going to have a lot of grass stains on it. You should have gotten like a green jersey or like some brown stains all over his pants. You know, this one didn't hurt my feelings that much, Broussard. I think when Gronk's jersey comes out, it's actually going to hurt me a little bit more when I see a former Patriot great wearing the Tampa Bay pewter.
I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned pewter, because there was subtle disrespect at Brady and the Buccaneers. It's pewter, Nick, not gray, not pewter. Silver, any of that. Pewter. I love it. The Buccaneers are cool. They haven't been cool since Leroy Selman and James Wilder. Maybe Warren Sapp, but I love it now. Again, Tampa Bay is cool.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to the latest NBA Twitter beef, guys. Kendrick Perkins recently tweeted that LeBron James was the most athletic player in NBA history, to which Bill Russell cleared his throat, stood up tall, and responded with, "In '56, I could have made the Olympics in high jump, but turned it down to play basketball instead. We could only play one sport then. Track and Field News ranked me number 7 high jumper in the world. I was ranked number 2 in the U.S. at the time." Wow. That, from Bill Russell, prompted Perkins to do an about tweet. He said, "Well, I've been checked by an all-time great. So sorry, King James, I've had a change of heart. Bill Russell is the most athletic player in NBA. Apologies, my apologies." To which he turned... No, he didn't. That was it. That was the end of the conversation. Broussard, who you got, LeBron or Russell?
Man, props to Perk for his about face. I'm waiting for Nick to do that with me with Jordan as the GOAT. I'm waiting for that tweet, Nick. But anyway, this is a tough... Look, here's the thing. I would give LeBron the edge over, I think, some competitors. You got Allen Iverson, right? But we give LeBron the edge because of his size. Michael Jordan. LeBron gets the edge because of his size. What about Wilt Chamberlain? I
There
mean,
you go.
Russell
That's the
being
answer.
7th in the world and the Olympics could have made the Olympics. That's hard to beat. But Wilt Chamberlain, with his size, he was a track star at Kansas. I probably would go with Wilt.
I'd go with Wilt too. There is a clip. This Twitter thread kept going, and I think Bill tweeted out a picture of him jumping over a guy. So, but I'd still also go Wilt.
Okay, you guys are missing the point here. Hey, listen,
What?
Bill
What's the
Russell
point?
is the 5th greatest player of all time. He's an all-timer, and for the young folks out there that think he couldn't play in today's era, he 100% is one of the few guys of the
100%.
60s who could play in today's era. And I'm shocked, by the way, Broussard, credit to you for not saying, well, the most athletic player ever has to be Jordan. Haven't you heard these wives' tales? 48-inch vertical, 4'1", 40. Like, people tweet at me all the time. Like, that is at all documented, not just something Roy Williams once said in passing. But Perk, my old buddy Perk, the hell happened to take integrity, man? You have a take,
my
someone
God.
challenges you on it, and you immediately say, oh,
It's Bill
sorry,
Russell.
sorry, Mr. Russell.
It's
Oh,
Bill
my take is now
Russell.
gone.
It's a legend.
Bill
Yeah.
Russell.
Okay, and one of the foundational pieces of take integrity is even in the face of massive scrutiny, you stand there unless you have new information. Did he not know Bill
According
Russell
to you,
existed?
Nick.
Did he not know about the 56 Olympic trials? Like, Perk, your job to know those things, and your job to stand on take integrity. By the way, most athletic player in NBA history, active player James Johnson. He can roundhouse kick a ball out of the wedgie between the rim and the backboard. Maybe the only person in world history who can do that. Now, the best player in NBA history, most athletic player, James Johnson. Look it up, America.
Hey, the question was
Give me
LeBron
Mayor,
or Russell.
bro.
All three of you picked somebody else.
The fighter.
Let's talk some Joel Embiid, who tweeted yesterday that after 9 years in America, he finally got his driver's license. So did my friend Jill yesterday. Not important now. Nick,
Oh, friend
he's
Jill.
looking for car
Shout
recommendations.
out.
Yeah, she did. He's a 7-footer. What do you got for Joel Embiid, Nick?
Well, you know, it's a great question. When you have the type of money Joel has, I feel like the new Rolls-Royce truck is the only way to go. If you're that size, have that much money, you can have the Rolls-Royce, which is obviously the greatest car ever created, and you can have it in SUV form. But my only, good call, Jenna, but that's actually your friend Jill. My only concern for Joel is getting a $500,000, $400,000 car when he just got his license. I feel like he's going to ding it up here and there. So maybe start with the G-Wagon from Mercedes and then move up to the Rolls-Royce truck, Wilds.
All right, I'm going to go with just a classic Florida golf cart. You're going to be down there. I think they got the Grand Floridian, right? It's a nice campus. You can bop around in the golf cart and make it feel like home. Reminder, everyone, Sixers 29-2 at home, best team in the league. Make it feel like home. Win the championship.
I picture Joel in a Hummer. I think the Hummer is perfect for him. Look, he likes to eat his cheeseburgers and things like that. There's going to be wrappers all over the car. You don't want that in a Rolls Royce, Nick. That's why I think just do the Hummer and you can mess it up all
You
year.
don't want that in anything, Broussard. On to 35-year-old free agent Nick Young now, who's working out and ready to go for the July 30th NBA restart. Broussard, should someone give Swaggy P a chance?
Last time I saw Nick, which was last year, he was averaging 2.3 points on 33% shooting. So I say, Swaggy P, keep working out. And plus, he's mad silly. I don't know if he's going to be able to handle the bubble. He's so silly, he might get guys off the main thing. You know what I mean?
I like him. I think having a bunch of three-point shooters, if you've got those extra roster space, either give it to JR or Swaggy P, or is there another big three-point assassin out there that I'm missing?
You
that
want
wanna add to a
Lance in
roster?
there. No, I mean, you want Lance in
And
there.
I want Lance as like an X factor.
Yeah, but can we roll that video again? Is it possible? I don't know how television works. I think we can. I now know why we're doing this story. I was curious why this made the show. And then I realized it's because Wilds saw this video, and I hand to God, America, Wilds is wearing those shorts right now. He didn't mean for us to see him before the show. They are the exact same shorts. Broussard and Jenna can confirm. He won't stand up and show you America, but he is wearing the swaggy
Wild,
pink
stand up,
shorts.
stand up.
Sadly.
They're not salmon, they're hot pink Patagonia shorts. They're amphibious shorts.
So that's what. No, listen, Swaggy P, Jenna. Swaggy P's not making the team, but he and Wilds do have the same shorts on right now.
Let's get back to the NFL. Browns Pro Bowl defensive end Myles Garrett could make any team, casually deadlifting 655 pounds barefoot. No big deal, Nick. Just a regular Wednesday for you, buddy?
No, I don't understand. Where did Jenna get this idea that, like, that I'm trying to be some muscle-bound athlete and my failure at it is something that bothers me, so continuing to poke me at it. I was actually going to, Jenna, try to set you up to tell America where his form was bad, but instead you took another unnecessary shot at me, so I just want Kevin to go.
Shot.
Kevin, go right ahead.
You're very sensitive.
Shot at me.
Nick, I think you should also tweet out a video of maybe you putting on like multiple nicotine patches, just like the most nicotine patches you've ever put on. I think that would also make the show.
No, it's dangerous. Don't listen to America Wilds. More than one is tough. More than two is really dangerous. I've done it. I've done it. Go ahead, Broussard.
I guess I want Jenna's expert opinion, but I'm terrified for Myles Garrett because of the bare feet. Why? Why? What if a weight goes awry? Anything could happen. You could crush your foot. Never work out like that in bare feet. Am I wrong?
It can't.
I get what he's doing,
it's not
but
a straight bar with weights. Nothing could happen there. It's going to land aside from him. Those weights aren't coming off. He's good.
Never know. We never thought,
All right, ending with my
workout
favorite story of the day. If you're determined to go to the gym these days, Nick, prepare yourself for what may lay ahead. Workout pods. 3 reasons, though, why I tell you this isn't going to work. Number 1, no mirrors. Number 2, it's hard to compete with other people who don't know you're competing with them. And number 3, it's terrible angling for selfies. All important things when you're working out. But maybe, just maybe, Nick, this could finally get you, my friend, into a gym, which is all I care about and why I keep poking the bear.
We went back-to-back stories. Listen, Jenna, I know. Listen, I know if we're going to really just pull the curtain back, that it is a source of great bitterness for you that you do lunatic things like this for 90 minutes a day. I do nothing at all, and yet look at me. I understand the jealousy there. I get it. So I'm not angry at you about it. But Wilds, that might actually get me in the gym for this reason alone. So the Jennas of the world won't be able to try to critique or comment on how you're working out because you have a double barrier between you. You don't have to worry about someone chiming in and being like, well, actually, sir, your form is a 60-degree angle instead of a 45-degree angle. Yeah, right, you don't do that. Yeah, right.
And it would also be good for the other patrons, Nick. They wouldn't have to listen to Jordan takes while they were working out.
I am a maniac.
You forgot to smell, too, with the eyes. Can't smell good.
Good point.
Nick,
good take.
I love you. You know that. We'll work out one day. I promise you'll be happy. We got to go. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow. You're the worst.